My mic working? Everyone can hear me? Okay, great. Good afternoon and welcome to the Electronic Information System for International Law. My name is Jean Wenger and I'm the Government Documents Foreign International Law Librarian at the Cook County Law Library here in Chicago. Cook County is a practitioner's library. We serve the bench and bar in Cook County as well as the general public because we are open to the public. I spent most of my law librarian career at Cook County, but I did spend several years at Cornell Law Library as a reference librarian. And while there, I did have the opportunity to attend CALI conferences. So it's really nice to be able to come back to a CALI conference after a little hiatus of a couple of years. The Electronic Information System for International Law is a project of the American Society of International Law. If you're not familiar with the society is a scholarly membership organization which was founded in 1906. It's headquartered in Washington, D.C. And its objectives, through its publications and activities, promotes the development and the study of international law. And members of the society are worldwide. They're jurists, attorneys, judges, practicing attorneys, and law librarians. This afternoon, I'm going to talk about EISIL, and I'm actually going to have two objectives. I'm going to talk about EISIL as a database, how the database works, how you navigate through the database, ways you can use the database in an academic setting. I'm also going to talk about some of the background, the behind-the-scenes activities that go on, that go into the contents and the design of the database. Realizing this is a conference of law school computing, many of you may be involved in database projects at your institutions, or you may be thinking of developing some sort of database or some sort of electronic initiative. So hopefully you can take some of the things that we've learned and that's been developed through developing EISIL and apply them in your situation. We also like to call EISIL the Knowledge Network for International Law. This is the URL, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of EISIL. But while I'm doing that, you can kind of take a look at the homepage for EISIL. About 5 years ago, the Society was looking for ways, using its expertise and its resources, to sort out and improve the access to international law on the Internet. As we all know, international law, or any area of law, there's lots of resources on the Internet. Some are very good, some are not. The Society really wanted to focus on those kinds of resources that would be of benefit to its members as well as to others in the scholarly community. In the year 2000, the Society received a grant from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. And this grant was for the purpose of developing an international law information gateway. When the Society received the grant, they realized that they couldn't just sit and just develop one or two people getting together and putting together this database. They needed input from a number of people. So they had a number of planning workshops. One of the planning workshops in 2000 brought together members of the Society, editors of the International Legal Materials and American Journal of International Law, two of the Society's publications, law librarians, members of international institutions and organizations, and they kind of really had a real kind of melting pot of ideas and thoughts. They also had workshops dealing with the technical issues. What kind of things might you would want to have in an information gateway for electronic resources. A couple things out of all these workshops kind of filtered down, and so there was a consensus of ideas. One of the things that came out was that it had to be the entirety of international law. It couldn't just be one or two topics. So as you see from the home page, 13 categories really covering the whole area of international law. They also identified their target audience. And it would very much mirror the members of society. And you were looking at people doing serious international law research, people who would be working in either academia, practicing attorneys, people working in international organizations. They also realized that they wanted certain kinds of resources to be identified. Obviously, primary documents, treaties, agreements, conventions, resolutions. And they also wanted to have websites. What are good websites? If I have international, I want to get some international law information, resources, what are good websites I can go to? They also wanted to find research guides. As we all know, everyone says, oh, it's all on the internet, and we know that's not true. So they were looking for research guides that would be comprehensive, looking at all formats, whether it be print or electronic. So with those kind of consensus, those ideas to start with, the two project managers of EISIL, Marcy Hoffman and Jill Watson, who are still today the project managers, started to work together and develop, what would be selection guidelines. We've identified the kinds of resources we want. What kind of guidelines would we have? They also, at that point, identified a database designer. They used Northern Lights Internet Solutions up in Canada. It was a database designer, because it certainly wasn't going to be an in-house operation. They had big plans for EISIL. And with the database designer, they did usability studies. They kind of kick-tested the design, the database, thought of how they wanted to have the database created. Okay, now we're up to about the year 2002. Looks right. And they had a database design. Excuse me, and Marcy Hoffman at this point started entering records into a prototype human rights category. They wanted to work and develop the kinds of resources that you would have, and by having content in a category, they were able to start doing functionality tests. How does this work? Realizing that there's also going to be a number of authors down the road who would be contributing to EISIL, they also wanted to start developing author guidelines. In 2002, they also selected, recruited 3 charter authors. I was really happy to be invited to be one of the charter authors, and we worked on 3 different categories. We worked on criminal law, environmental law, and economic law. And each of us was responsible for our own category, and we had to build a category, meaning we had to develop an outline. We took our main topic, I happened to be working on economic, develop the subcategories, and then also identify the resources that we would be putting into the category. We attended a 2-day training session in Washington, D.C., where we worked learning about the database, how it worked, and also the administrative side of the database. And a little bit later on, I'll talk about the administrative side and show you the side that we see as we're entering documents. In September of 2003, we had an EISIL preview, and we showed the initial kind of the 4 categories, human rights, and the other 3 that we had developed, kind of as a soft introduction to EISIL. Since that time, we've recruited authors. We have right now, there's 15 people working on EISIL, and we had the official launch in September of 2004. The additional authors were also trained, went through the same kinds of things, learning about how the database works, how to enter records, because we really seek to have consistency in what we're entering. We're not just independent, authors thinking up whatever we want. We have to follow the certain guidelines, because this needs to be uniform. So as you'll be working throughout EISIL, you'll have a similar interface. So basically, what is EISIL? It's a one-stop shopping on the web for international law. And as I mentioned earlier, the 3 documents that we're working on, primary documents. Now, we're not just slapping up a link to a primary document, to a treaty, and saying that's it. We have value-added information. We write descriptions for the documents. We identify the citations. We identify the status of the information. We add keywords to the records. So it's not just a link and then you move on. We have a lot of value-added information. And the same thing is done for websites and research guides. We write descriptions. We provide keywords. But as you see, I'll show you how the search function works. Those keywords are going to be very important in terms of using the search function on the database. And when I said back in September 2004 that we launched the database, we're not just sitting back on our laurels and saying, well, we're done. This is an ongoing project. We've actually just got started. We're approaching our 2000th record in EISIL. We can tell because as we add a record, our record is given a number. And right now we're up to 1,970 something, thereabouts. So we're approaching our 2,000th record. But as the way we look at it, we're just starting. Navigating EISIL. We wanted to, when the database was designed, we really wanted to think, how do researchers research? What are the ways that how do they go about researching? Well, they can do one of two things. Browse. You know, you don't know anything about a topic, so you might go to the shelf in the library and browse in the area. Or you might browse on a website, maybe look at the sitemap, kind of see what's there. The other alternative is to search. You know, you're looking for a particular document, so you're going to search for that particular document. But I'll show you how the browse function works in EISIL. And you see, as I mentioned earlier, we have 13 categories. This is kind of, we try to cover the whole range of international law. And underneath each main category under general international law, for example, there's basic sources, historical materials, treaty collections. There's a number of subcategories, and these are just descriptions, or just a sampling, actually, of the subcategories. Let's take a look at international criminal law. Here you'll see for international criminal law, there's a short description written. Again, maybe you're browsing and you may be, you know, an experienced attorney, but you're not experienced in international law. So you want to kind of get a sense of what is international criminal law. You don't want to make the things too long. We want them, you know, we want people to read them. And if they're going to be, you know, paragraph after paragraph, people aren't going to read them. So we make it very short and concise. And this is something the person who handles the category for criminal law, they write these descriptions. And also, since you're in the browse mode, we also refer you to international human rights or the use of force sections of EISIL. So there's a lot of international law, really, is like any area of law, there's a lot of overlap. So, you know, if you're interested in criminal law, you might be interested in human rights. We try to, you know, prompt you so you keep looking. Again, now these are all the subcategories. And remember when I said authors had to develop their categories and develop their outline? For criminal law, these were the subcategories that the author for criminal law developed. Let's take a look at international criminal law. And there you'll see, even for a subcategory, there's a brief description of the category as well as a link to another part of EISIL. And you'll also notice that since you're browsing, you have the breadcrumbs up at the top. We don't want you to be lost in terms of looking. And how often do we start, you know, digging into a website and we're digging, and 5 minutes later we think, where are we? You know, we don't know, and then we have to start backtracking. So you may be looking here at criminal law and say, well, this isn't really, you know, interesting. Maybe I'll look at environmental law. We can just jump back to the home link and go back and then start a new search. And you'll see here the primary documents. That's one type of resource. We have websites. And if you scroll down, over in the far right corner, you'll see there's a second page. You click there, you have more websites, and you have your research guides. Now, we were thinking, what would make it easy for someone to use EISIL? In terms of the design, the default is for 10 results per page. And you see over here, you can maybe I just like everything on one page and I want to scroll. So then you can select 20 results per page, and that would give you all the resources on one page. Again, you can customize it to the way you like to do research, the way you like to look at things, the way you like to browse. Now, you're looking at these documents, and you'll see the title of a document. For example, Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. That is actually a link directly to the document. And this will pull up as a PDF document from the International Criminal Court. And we'll just go back, but that is a link to the actual document. While this is trying to go back, as you're looking at the list of documents, it also provides, you may not, if you're not familiar with a particular category, a particular area of international law, you will get descriptions. I love when this happens. you'll get descriptions of, and you would want a description. There's actually a link that you can pull down and show the descriptions. Here you go. Let's just retrace that. Criminal law, criminal court. Okay. Up here you can check a box or show description. And we selected that as a possibility because if you don't know anything about a particular area and you would want to know what these documents mean, these descriptions will help you in your research. And all these descriptions are written by the authors. In fact, we cannot enter a record into EISIL unless we write a description for the document. So this will give you an idea as you're browsing through, well, what am I going to be looking at? So again, there's the 13 top categories, subcategories, the descriptions, the breadcrumbs. Records are always arranged by primary doc, website, research guide. You have your list of titles. You can select the number of results per page, and you can also show description. But you can also do more with EISIL. You'll see for every resource, there's a link for more information. And this is what I like to consider the heart and soul of EISIL. These are detailed records of whatever it is, the primary document and the website. You'll notice it tells you what the title is, tells you a link that's available from the International Criminal Court, and it's the link to the site that the authors selected as what they thought to be the best sites, the best source for that document. But you also see there's the United Nations and the University of Minnesota Human Rights Library. So you'll have alternate sources to look for the document. And any of those sources I would feel comfortable giving to a law professor, to a faculty member, and saying, if you want a reputable resource for finding this particular document, any of those websites would do. Conclusion dates, entry and enforce dates. Sometimes that's the information you have. You know, when people are researching, they don't always have all pieces of information. They might just know it's something to do with the criminal court. It was concluded in July of 1998. Here's the description, again written. Descriptions are HTML enabled, so we can include links. And descriptions are things that help people understand what the document is about, maybe unique features of the document. Even sometimes if the site is difficult to load, like our last example, sometimes we will include a note in there saying, this site loads slowly. Just anything that will help the researcher in their research. Probably what the real gold mine on this is here, the legal citation. How many places can you go on the web where you can find the text of the documents, the description, the dates, as well as the legal citation? We also have keywords. And the keywords, in this case there's 5 of them, these are selected by the author, and when I show you the administrative side, you'll see how the keywords, how we select them and how we pick from keywords. And what's important is when we start searching EISIL, remember now we're just browsing, when we search, the title, the description, the legal citation, and the keywords are all searchable fields. And we use the keywords to try to help you, it's kind of an overlap. It helps you look for documents that might be of interest to you. And again, if you're not familiar with an area, the keywords are definitely a resource that can be useful. We also let you know what languages the document's available in, who created the document, and also the site administrator with an email address. If you're working with the International Criminal Court website and you keep finding that there's problems or you have questions about the site in particular, then you can go ahead and contact the site administrator directly. So when I talk about more, that more information is the value-added information that's available in EISIL. The titles, acronyms, and if there's an alternative title or an abbreviation, we use that as well. The dates, descriptions, citations, keyword, site administrator information. Excuse me. Now I'll show you how the search function works. And there's 2 ways of searching EISIL. There's a basic or a find function, and there's also an advanced function. On the basic function, you can put in a term or a phrase. Again, if you're using a phrase, you're going to want to use quotations around the term in order to search. And I'll show you there's a help page on EISIL that, you know, if you want to get tips on how to search and things of that sort, you can do that. The search I was going to show you was going to be something kind of, you know, related to CALI, electronic commerce, and I was going to put the term in quotes, and that would pull up the documents. Anyone have good suggestions on what to do when things like this happen? I'll talk a little bit about the advanced search. When this does come up, there is a template. And we sought to create an easy interface to use when you're searching. And it uses Boolean logic. We don't want you to have to worry about using and, or, do I use the ampersand, do I use the word, or, the same thing like we get used to with the different subscription databases and all their terms and connectors. We actually have query boxes that are very specific that tell you the kinds of research that you're going to do, and you can combine those query boxes over here on the far left is the find box. This is the simple search. And when you're doing a basic search, you can search in a variety of different ways. You can search in links and categories. Oops. Links and categories, that's the broadest search, and that's also the default search. Or if you want to search in a particular category or subcategory, you can do that as well. But if you just search for the term electronic commerce, there you go. It pulls up the page, and first, you'll always have the primary documents first, then the websites, and then you'll have research guides. I'll show you the advanced search, because, for example, electronic commerce is kind of a small area, but if you think about searching human rights, and that's a huge category, and there's just so many documents that you can find, even in EISIL, we're kind of starting, there's still a lot of hits if you do just a basic human rights search. But say your faculty member comes in and says, well, I want to write a short paper, and I'd like to do something on human rights research, and I'm kind of interested on what are some of the preeminent treaties dealing with children and human rights. Now, now you're thinking about your strategy here. You want to use human rights as a phrase, and you want to have children or maybe child as an alternative. If you're thinking as a librarian, what are the alternative terms I can put in? Well, these are what I was talking about with those query boxes. Find results with all of the words. Well, if you think about using human rights, that's not going to work because you'll find documents with human and rights, but not necessarily as a phrase. The next option, you can search or find results with the exact word or phrase. Okay, that makes sense. Human rights. Oops. And you don't need to use quotations because this box is specifically going to be looking for a phrase. The next option is with any of the words. Okay, well, I want something with human rights as a phrase, and I want children or child to be somewhere in the document or in the description. So you type in child or children. You can also exclude certain words. Say maybe you don't want anything with the UN, so you would put in UN, and then you would not find any documents that would have UN in either the title, the description, the citation, or the keywords. Find in, again, you can select your field. These are the 4 searchable fields. Well, we'll take any field for this. But again, you can customize your search. Now, type of document. Remember he said he wanted documents, treaties, conventions. So you really want primary documents. So you would select only return results of this type. The default is any type, but here you can select primary document. You could also exclude a particular type of result. Now remember, EISIL's just getting started. You know, thinking of trying to do searches maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, you're going to have a lot more content that you're going to be searching through. You can also limit it by any kind of dates. You know, entry into force, conclusion date. For this purpose, we don't care. We'll take any date. And again, you can select how many results you want displayed. Again, this is not limiting the number of results or hits you're going to get. It's going to just limit the number per page, how they're displayed. Oh, I don't know. Maybe there might be a lot, so let's try 30. And let's hope this works. Search. Okay. Here you have, we had already earlier clicked Show Description, 30 documents. These are all documents, primary documents dealing with human rights and children. Well, this convention on the rights of the child looks interesting, so I want to get more information about that. So, clicking on that, here you get your detailed record, and you'll see you have the title of the document. You also have alternative titles. And it also searches alternative titles as well as the title, your conclusion dates, your alternate websites, your description. Again, a full legal citation. And the legal citation is not in Blue Book form because there's going to be a lot of people not using Blue Book, but with all that information, it'd be easy to convert it to. Now, you also see that this particular convention was amended by subsequent optional protocols. Okay, now you want to get this information to the professor ASAP. You know, ideally, it'd be great to just email it to them, which actually you can. In the upper right-hand corner, you have a saved record. So, yeah, I want to save this to my saved records list. And I probably should also include those optional protocols. And actually, by clicking on this will take you to the detailed record of the optional protocol. It will not take you to the actual document itself. Well, we'll just, if you were in real life, you would be clicking on and saving these two records. So up in the upper right-hand corner, you can view the records that you have saved. And it will give you the option of printing them, downloading them, or emailing them. And when you email them, they will be emailed with live links, so that it'll show up at the professor's inbox, and he can go directly to those resources. So that's a really nice functionality that EISIL has. Again, trying to think of how we can best make this easy to use for the researcher. You know, we don't want to make it too complicated in terms of going through the database, but we want to have the good content, the scholarly content available. So we navigated EISIL by browsing, by searching. Additional features that mark and save. Again, you can go through and mark your records and email them, download them, print them. They're great for doing bibliographies, research guides. And what you get is all the detailed records, all the detailed information goes. That's what you save. You don't just save the link. You save all the information, including the citations. The content on EISIL is regularly reviewed. In fact, on the administrative side, every 6 months, if you don't look at a record, we get a little expired, big red expired sign next to our record. And that tells us that we need to go back and look at the record. You don't see it on the public side, and the record doesn't disappear after 6 months. It's still there. But it makes us go back and go through those records and to take a look at those to make sure, has anything changed? Do we need to update something? A lot of things like that. So we are constantly looking at the records. There's also a site map. And there's also the site map would actually be a breakdown of all the categories plus the subcategories. the help button, which would be really useful today, tells you, what kind of reviews, how to browse, how to search, both the basic and the more detailed, and it kind of tells you, again, it reminds you about those different boxes that you can fill in. It also tells you about the saving, the marking and saving, and it can send you along on that route. And we also like to hear from you. So if you ever are doing research and you want to suggest a site to EISIL, there is a box pops up. You can type in the site you're looking for in your email and send it to us. We don't guarantee that we'll enter the site. Again, it's all editorial. We vet the sites, we look at them. Even if I would find a document, and there's only one place on the web that that document is available, but if I don't feel comfortable with the resource, who has it, who put it up there, how it's put up there, if I don't feel comfortable about that, I don't put it on the site. Or I'll also consult with my colleagues. Again, there's 16 people. If I have a question, I can always contact Marcy or Jill, the project managers. We have a listserv among authors. Toss it out and say, what do you do about this? Oh, good. Here is the help screen. Again, very straightforward. EISIL is not a complicated database in terms of navigation or use. That wasn't the objective. We wanted to make it as straightforward and as clean as possible. And again, the suggested site. Name of the site, URL, description, you can send it to us. In fact, you don't even ask for who you are. And we also want to hear if something doesn't work on EISIL. You find a broken link, you have a comment, or we love stories too. If you use EISIL in your classroom, or you have an interesting story, you have a professor that gets all excited about it, we like to hear about it. It's just, it's nice to know that the site is being used. Okay, EISIL it versus Google it. You may still say, okay, this is nice, this is cool, but I like my Google, and I'm going to use that. And why would we suggest you use EISIL? Obviously these are pretty straightforward. They're vetted resources. Again, we don't put something up there unless we think that it's good. And all the authors are people who have worked with international law research for a number of years. And again, we'll bounce ideas off each other. What do you think of this source? Have you ever heard of it? One versus thousands. Remember the Convention for the Rights of the Child. Search it. Search for that in EISIL, you get one record. Search for it in Google, 300,000, 500,000. And then again, you may not even get the legal citation to it. Using the right tool. How often do we say, to the lawyers or the law students, what are you looking for? Now think about what you're looking for. What's the best resource? EISIL can be a great resource. It's not going to work in every situation, but we think it's a really good, useful resource. Deep web access. You're not going to find information. What is it? What's the statistics? 10% or something, 3% of what the automated search engines pull up of what actually is available on the web. People think it's like everything, but they're really just skimming the top. If I have someone come in with, I hear about a resource, I'll look for it, see if it's available electronically. And you can spend maybe an hour digging through websites trying to find it. So a lot of resources available on EISIL are not going to be things found using AltaVista or another search engine. Again, the value-added information, you have all the information right in front of you. It's great if you're working with site checking an article, customized search results. Again, you can tailor your search results, and it's a fairly straightforward interface that you can use. And actually, I was going to show it, but I'll just tell you about it. I had a situation last month that was just like classic EISIL versus Google. I always tell lawyers or law students, I don't care what area of law you're going to be practicing in, at some point you're going to have an international law question. It's going to happen, so be prepared. I had an attorney walk up to the reference desk, and he had a death grip on this pleading. And he says to me, it's an aviation case, and there's a Montreal protocol that I have to find. And, I know, okay, I'm thinking, yeah, there's a couple Montreal protocols dealing with aviation. And they're numbered. And I said, do you know what number it is? And he said, no. And I said, do you know what it deals with? And he says, yeah. They quoted a little of it in the pleading. And I said, okay, thinking, this is perfect EISIL. So we went into EISIL, and I just did a basic search. I thought about it. I thought I could browse. There's a category for international air law. There's a category for communication and transport. I thought, no, I think searching might be best in this case. I slapped in the word Montreal. I mean, I should have put Montreal protocol in quotes. I just put in Montreal, pulled up a list of documents, Montreal Protocol 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, he didn't know the number, so I clicked on Show Descriptions, and I said, anything look good here? He says, yeah, it's number 4. So I thought, well, if anyone needs more information, it's this person. So I clicked on the more information, and he had all the information he needed because he wanted it in print. He wanted the print version, and the legal citation provided the UN Treaty Series site. So he was able to take the UN Treaty Series site. We have the full run at Cook County. He was able to pull it off the shelf. Total elapsed time from this to getting it off the shelf, about a minute. Now think about it, if he tried to do that in Google, again, he didn't know the number, he knew Montreal Protocol, and again, I don't know how, it's not real sophisticated, even to use the advanced search on Google. I mean, it would have taken him probably a lot longer to try to find that. So, I mean, realizing I thought that's perfect, it just fits in. That's an example of when, EISIL would make more sense. Again, using EISIL, these are, pretty obvious to everyone, as a supplement to the print collection. Not everyone can have all international law resources. If your school hosts an international law moot court team, or you have an international law journal, or even, law review, they sometimes end up doing international law research. Professional and scholarly writing, browse for a topic, or orientation on a topic. Site checking. Again, those legal citations are what's really valuable in EISIL. Okay, now this is where I wanted to show you the author's view. And I'm going to show you the interface that we use when we go into EISIL and add records. As I mentioned earlier, the project managers and the authors communicate via a listserv. This is actually a pretty lively listserv. There's maybe messages every other day, every day sometimes. For example, last week I came across a resource in WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. It looked like a publication, and I thought, wow, this is really detailed. If someone was looking for the registration of marks, I think it was the Madrid Protocol, this would be really useful. But then I thought, well, is this a primary document, or would it be a research guide? I mean, it didn't really fit in either one. And I thought, well, would this be something we would want to include in EISIL? So I posted that question to the listserv, and actually we got a couple of different ideas going. I haven't yet loaded it because we're still deciding what to do with it. We're thinking perhaps of expanding the definition of research guide, because there are a lot of very good publications that are in-depth that would be great for research on a number of sites, and we want to try to figure out how to best deal with those. So again, EISIL isn't a stagnant kind of database. We're always looking for trying to add more value. But hopefully, let's see if we can get into the editorial web interface. And I really would like for you to see this. This is something when they selected the Northern Lights Internet Solutions database designer, they had design a database that was going to be good for the public side, as well as something that was going to be easy to use for the administrator side or the author side. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that we do. We have templates for entering information. First and foremost, before we enter any kind of document on EISIL, we first check to make sure that that document has not already been added to EISIL. We want to only have one record for any particular resource. However, what we will sometimes do is, as I said, international law, like a lot of areas, intersect and there's a lot of overlap. We will add multiple categories to one record. The reason we do that is, remember, if you're browsing, say you're browsing in economic law, well, also in private international law, as well as the international disputes resolution category, there would be overlap. So if I entered a record on an arbitration convention, the other authors could add their category to that record. So if you browse for, say, the New York Convention, so you're browsing the different categories, you would see the same record would pop up. So there's some positive redundancy there. Oh, this really breaks my heart. Well, actually, I'm going to have to, because since I wasn't going to have, I saved the, I did some screen captures. On the administrative side. I was going to show you the template that we use for entering information, as well as the home page. And on the administrative side, we have a very detailed author's guidelines and selection criteria that is continually revised. It tells us how to build a category, how to, okay, this is a screen capture of our EISIL administration area. And, of our administration area, and we have a number of different things. We can add a category, add a record, edit or delete a record. Adding categories, we pretty much got the category set, so if we do any major changes, I'm freezing up a lot here on the web. I'm freezing up a lot. Okay.
Stop the XP source back install, that will slow down the computer.
Oh, I don't know.
It's in the taskbar, I can see it. Just click on the Windows logo on the keyboard, and you'll see it.
Okay, that's what's slowing it down.
The XP source back, it's sitting in the taskbar. I think it is trying to install right now.
Oh.
Or you click the bar.
Okay. Oh, I'm almost done. But this, folks get a sense of what we use. This is our administration area. Usually I would select the navigate and modify. And this would be a page that I would get. It would show, again, all 13 categories. And it has edit, delete, move, or copy. And I can edit the category. If I wish, I can, if I select edit, remember each category has a description, so I can adjust the description. I can add additional links to there. And this is, if I want to add a primary document, here you have the template, and over on the right it gives me references to what I would use, or suggestions on what I would do with these different boxes. And as many times as we add records, these little reminders are really useful. And again, you'll see also some fields have a red asterisk. I cannot save a record until I fill that in. And I can save records that I can only see on my administrative side that you would not see on the public side. Because a lot of times I'll start a record, I can't finish it, or I want to go back and do more information. So I would save it, but it would not be visible. There's a checkbox when I'm done, when it's ready for prime time, that I would click to make the site visible. And this is the search page that I have that we use for searching the database. And if I would click on this pull-down menu, it would show a lot more field. It would show every single entry box that I could have to enter information. There's also on the template, there's a box for internal comments. I can write myself notes and say, well, you need a better description, or you got to get the legal citation, or any number of things. And actually, on the administrative side, I can search for my internal comments. We can search for expired records. We can search for hidden records. Those are the ones that are not visible yet. A lot of different ways of searching. We can search for the record number. Again, if I was the first person to enter a record, my record would be number 1. If I was the 500th person, or 500th record, it would be record number 500. So EISIL as a teaching tool. This is on the About EISIL side, and we actually provide PowerPoint presentation with slides and notes that's ready to go. So if you need to, you want to have a little session with your students or your faculty member, you can do a quick and dirty PowerPoint presentation. It's got all the notes. There is a one-page handout that's available. Kind of gives you like a cheat sheet on how to use EISIL. We also provide you with the HTML code if you want to put this nifty little logo on your research guide, and it's hot linked. It'll be live. And here we have the list of EISIL contributors. And let me just try real quick. So I really would like for you to see. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is a live administration panel. Again, the navigate and modify. Well, actually, that was about the end of the presentation. And, yeah, any questions? Yeah.
You were saying that you have approximately 2,000 documents or approaching 2,000 documents. Do you have a sense if this was, if the system was fully mature right now, how many documents that would encompass?
If it were fully, well, this is nowhere near fully mature.
Right.
Okay, yeah, what we...
Do you have a sense of how many documents, once it does become fully mature, or
actually in our discussion, we haven't really said there's a target. We haven't set a limit on what it could be. As I said, we're looking at, possibly adding different types of documents. I mean, we had to start somewhere, and we thought those, from our workshops, those 3 documents came out to be, things we wanted to work with. But, now we're looking possibly at adding those online publications, or perhaps adding some of the associations, the society's material, like from ILM. ILM, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like one of the main resources for international law, and it reproduces international law documents. And we're thinking of putting maybe those documents that are not available anywhere else and linking to those or having those available. So, yeah, we're not limiting ourselves right now. I mean, as you can see, it's been 5 years since EISIL got the grant, and it's been a very deliberative process, and because this has been a lot of thought that went into this, and no, actually, we, in the years I've been involved with it, I haven't heard any limit or number fully mature. We hope it just keeps going, actually. Yeah.
You actually led into my question. You mentioned ILM, but are there any criteria used by the authors to determine when something would be placed under primary documents as opposed to just linking to a website that then would be another click to get to those documents.
Yeah. Yeah, we pull out, say, for example, the World Trade Organization has a very complex and in-depth website. Now, I mean, there's thousands of documents there. Now, we have a number of primary documents, you know, such as the different agreements of WTO. And those we pull, you know, those are from the WTO site. And that was kind of, you know, my question when I came up thinking about WIPO with that publication, about, you know, well, could it be a primary document, or it's not really a research guide, but then there's literally probably millions of those kinds of documents available on websites, and do we want to go there, or how do we want to define this? So actually, that's a discussion we're having right now.
So is primary document, the parameters pretty much that it's supposed to be from the organization's own site, like the ICC or UN, it's their document from their site, because they were, even if it's duplicated, by linking to another site.
Linking to another site that's not WTO?
Well, in other words, like the Treaty of Rome or anything, pulling it out and putting it up front, does that mean it comes from, you know, an authenticated the institution source as opposed to...
Most of those sites, for example, we will, if it's available at the institution site, we will use that version. Sometimes institutions, there's a document that is, I can't think of a specific example that's available, but the institution doesn't host it, but it's at, say, an international organization might have it. So we will, and if we feel that international organization is reputable, and you know, we will use that, And we will have sites like for WTO, we'll have a number of the documents from WTO, the agreements, but we'll also, in the website section, have WTO website. Yes?
So if I understand correctly, some of your primary documents are not actually in your database or on your site. Is that right? Like if I click on you know, the good protocol or whatever, am I taken to
WIPO, yeah.
Or am I still within your database?
No, you link out. We do not have them. No, it's a link to.
The author's information, the keywords.
Yeah, that information.
On your site.
Yeah, that detailed record is on wherever the physical server is. I'm not actually sure. It's probably in DC. But yeah, but then when you link out, we do not load that onto our server. You link out. Because as you noticed, when I was trying to get to that Rome statute for the International Criminal Court, I was linking to the PDF document on their server.
I couldn't see from back here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry. And that...
It was my mistake for sitting so far back. I couldn't see the URLs, and I couldn't tell if it was still the URL we had left.
Any questions? Yeah.
First of all, just by way of endorsement and appreciation, we have used this in presentations to our International Law Review and to International Law Seminars and to training class for professors and research assistants. We've used all three of those things you mentioned. We've used the PowerPoint, we've used the one-sheet handout, we've used HTML for the logo and link to that from our PowerPoints. And it's been just hugely successful. All three of those groups have really expressed great appreciation and almost amazement sometimes of how, you know, the people who already started said, gee, I wish I had known about this earlier. People who hadn't realized how great it was. So thanks very much to
I'm glad to hear that.
And to you authors. You know, there's a lot of things I don't understand about the internet, like how Craigslist makes money. But this is such a good, content-rich, labor-intensive site. Is this going to be like free forever? Not to put any ideas in there. How long does this grant last?
Yeah. Right now, it's free, and that's what we envision in the future. I attended a workshop several years back where we talked about operational and maintenance issues, or management issues. And, you know, that came up, you know, is that something down the road where part of it would be or free and then maybe part of it would be subscription? But right now, it's envisioned to be free into the foreseeable future. So I don't know, you know, down the road how that might change. Again, we're working with the grants from the Mellon Foundation, and it's by means of, thank you again for, telling us about your experience with it, because that's why, like, for example, with the PowerPoint presentation that's available and the handouts, it kind of fits in the mission of the society, because they want people to become better educated, they want people to understand and do research in international law, and this is a way that we can do it. So right now we are going to be free. Great. Yes.
The PowerPoint presentation on how to use EISIL. They want to give a copy to the faculty. Just as look at it and reuse it to save them time.
Yeah.
I just forgot the link to that.
Well, actually, here, these are handed out. This on here, actually, there's also a demo video, which is available on here, and it is available on the website. And you can kind of sit there, and it talks to you, and it points arrows, and it tells you where to go and how to use the site. And there's also a link to a direct link to EISIL from here, and the one-page handout, as I call it, a little cheat sheet, is also available on here. So if someone, if you want a couple, I have more. I got more buttons. Yeah, but we're really trying to get people, let people know about this database. People use it. We want to hear feedback, and we've been trying to, go around to different, give presentations on it, because again, it really fits in with the mission of society. Yes.
Well, 10, 15 years ago, there was talk of creating a world law index. Has that ever happened, or is this what you're overthrown at?
When you say the World Law Index, do you remember?
It seemed like that the AALL was involved, and the other people they were talking about putting together something that sounds very much like
Okay, because this is strictly international law as opposed to foreign law, which would be, national laws. And excuse me, the Glynn project at LC, has text of national laws, and there's the World LII, which is hosted through the Australian Legal Information Institute, and that's basically, those are collections of links, where we really, with EISIL, we're focusing not just, the links, yes, but then having that added information that's available that you're not going to find in one place anywhere else. So, any other questions? Yeah.
We used to also use like a paperback book that they used to put out.
The Electronic Resources Guide? Yeah, ERG. Well, that came up first, and I've worked on that as well. And as well as many of the authors for that publication are also contributing authors for EISIL. That started, and that is research guides. Again, just for electronic resources. Again, if people aren't familiar, it's like, we call it ERG, Electronic Resource Guide, and it's available in print as well as a link from the EISIL database, or EISIL website, sorry. But, so it's actually two different.
So this doesn't like supersede that?
Oh no, because I got my update due in August on that. So yeah, that's still going on. I don't know what they're planning to do another print publication on that. They've done 2 or 3 editions, but that is updated every 6 months on the EISIL website. Yes.
You compared the EISIL search process to Google, and I was curious, did you intend to imply that you don't allow Google to crawl your material?
I don't know. We don't have any restriction on that. I don't know. I mean,
So
I've actually never sat down and answered the question. I'm sorry? Well, I was comparing, if you were going to pick a resource to use to do research, that's why I was saying the EISIL it versus Google it. Why, if someone was looking for a particular document. Now, are you asking that if you try Googling for one of the treaties, are you wondering if the record would be pulled up? The EISIL record?
It just sounded from the way you described it as though Google was excluded from crawling the site, but it was like
Yeah, I don't actually. On the Pacific of it, I don't know. I'd have to ask. But again, any other questions? Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad you were able to come. In spite of